Sitting here with Mike Thompson, Corel painter, master, and illustrator, getting some background on Mike and his passion and reasons for getting into art. So Mike, tell me, when did you get into drawing and illustration, and why was it? What drew you to it?
I've always been a big fan of comic books, and when I was younger, my dad used to bring comic books home to me. After I was finished reading, I would draw the characters, and I just kept doing it, and realized that I wanted to do something in the art field. As I got older, I didn't know what it would be that would sustain me, but I knew I wanted to be an artist.
Who have been some of your early influencers and why? Who really impacted your art over time?
It's been a lot of artists, but I think it started with, actually, I just got to meet this guy at ComicCon. Neil Adams shook his hand, and other artists like John Byrne and people who were drawing some of the comics that I was a fan of. And as I got older, I kind of discovered Norman Rockwell, and his style was so, it just spoke to me. So I decided that I was going to be a realistic artist.
What are some of your proudest achievements and why?
I've been fortunate enough to work on some really nice projects. There was the Coca-Cola commercial in Infinity, and I think even most recently was the Meadowlands display, the Verizon display at the Meadowlands Stadium, which was nice and big. It was a 10-foot by 30-foot display that has monitors set up that are on rails and roll across, and when it stops over my person, it's a life-size illustration of a person, it turns from a static image into a live feed of a video. And it was so cool to me. I'm a tech nut, so seeing that thing really got me excited. I'm pretty proud of it.
Nice. Now, where do people go see that?
That's in New Jersey at the Meadowlands Stadium, the Giants Jet Stadium.
Nice. And where can they see it online?
Oh, they can see it on my blog. I have a link. It's Mike T Artworks .wordpress.com, or if you go to my website, Mike T Artworks, you can link right to the blog and Twitter and all that good stuff.
What were your early tools of the trade, and how did they evolve over time as a digital artist?
Early on, I was a traditional artist. I would work with acrylics on bristle board, and it was always small sizes, like 8.5 by 11, using these ridiculously small brushes, zeros, double zeros, and it would just take forever. So later on, when I started a job, actually my first job in the fashion industry, I started using a computer, and they had Photoshop. This is back when it was Photoshop 3, and I realized, wow, I can do a whole lot with this. So I've been using Photoshop for about 13 years, and then switched to Painter about 3 years ago, and never looked back.
So when you came across Corel Painter 3 years ago, what really drew you in?
I love the natural feel of it, the natural look of the brushes, and all of the things that I could do that looked so much like real world, their real world counterparts, whether it be watercolor or acrylic, whatever. I could achieve a look that when people look at the finished piece, if I tell them it's digital, they're like, nah, that can't be digital. And, I can see the strokes in it. So that was the goal, to be able to work in the computer saves me a ton of time. It saves me on materials, and I have so many options where I can decide that if I want to change something, I can go back and tweak it or whatever, paint over, and it's not a really big deal. And then at the end of the day, to be able to pass off something that looks like it was not done in a digital environment was really that was it for me.
So how does Corel Painter fit into your workflow now in terms of going back and forth between your tools of the trade you've had for years and the tools that you prefer to use to get that special look? How does it fit into your workflow?
About 95% of my workflow consists of using Painter. That really is for lack of a better term, that's the heavy lifting is done with Painter.
And how does this impact you as a commercial illustrator? What business value does that render?
It's invaluable. I use it, and I've been in situations where I have had to go and make those kinds of changes for, an action figure or something like that, where there has to be a minor tweak or a celebrity likeness, where the expression might not quite be right, and I can go in and make the changes that a digital environment affords me that a traditional would be just way more work to go in and fix.
So if a new illustrator comes across Painter and they're sold on what sold you on Painter, what would you tell them to start? What would you suggest they first do? Because there's a lot of power, a lot of flexibility, a lot of brushes. What should they do first?
Well, I would tell them not to be overwhelmed. I know that in the creative industry, people are pretty much brought in believing that Photoshop is the be-all end-all, and it's a great application. But I would say, give it a try and select a few brushes that you feel comfortable with. Play with all of them or however many you want to. Select only a few that you can just focus on and put those in their own custom palette. Select a few papers, just enough that you can get by on a piece. That's what I did anyway.
So when 12 came out, what else was in there that really got you excited? Was there anything there that was new that was, this was great, I'm glad I stuck with Painter?
Well, I was fortunate enough to be asked by you guys to be on the beta team, so I was learning about all these features and even had input into some of the ways that they were implemented throughout the process, which was, as an artist, it's invaluable to me, right? If you're telling me that, okay, this is something that you use for your work, it actually got me excited, and you can see I perked up a little bit right now. If you're telling me that I can actually give input into the way that the navigator might work, or the color picker, and I can say, well, this is a great tool. However, if you were to do this, if you were to add this, there was even the what's new feature where you guys, remember that was my idea.
I remember, great idea.
Over lunch, I said, hey, Painter 12 is awesome. There's so much going on, but I don't know where all the new things are. So what did you do? You made a workspace that is what's new. It's everything that is new to 12, and it's all right there at your fingertips. So, that was just killer.
Well, that's great. So what do you think is the future of Painter 13 and Painter 14? Where do you think Corel should go, or where should our emphasis continue to be?
You're reaching out to the person who is your consumer and saying, what would you like to see? And taking the best of the ideas and implementing them. So I think that's what 13 and 14 and 20 will be.
Awesome. Thanks, Mike.
No problem. Thanks for having me.